is all about stress management, and it's called Fred Flintstone Had It Made: Stress in the 21st Century. So here are our objectives for chapter 27. And I want you to realize that this last kind of section of the book is less about your academic supports and more about your social and emotional learning. So we're going to talk about ways to manage stress, and then also dealing with other parts of your life that are important as people. All right, so stress, we already talked about last semester, is a condition, a physical or mental strain that produces some type of autonomic nervous changes in your autonomic nervous system as the human body prepares for fight or flight. So basically, stress is something that impacts your body. It is the way you protect yourself when things are going on in your life. So stress can be physiological, so it can be bodily, like you can sweat or you can shake. It can be psychological, so you can have bad thoughts, or it could be both, bad thoughts and physical things. So a person's response to stress is often driven by their need to protect themselves from harm and maintain control. So when you start to feel stressed out, it's because you want to be in control of your life and you feel like things are being out of control. Being stressed out is really about being or feeling like your life is out of control. There are two types of stress you should know about. There's acute stress, which is spontaneous, it's here and now, it's short lived, and that is going to impact your central nervous system. Okay? So, acute stress is something that's common, everybody experiences because it's one of those things that, oh my gosh, I've got to do this and this and this. It's here and there, but it goes away. The one that's the biggest problem is your chronic stress because it's the stress that's ongoing, lasts for days, weeks, months, sometimes years. It's very dangerous because it impacts your endocrine system, your hormones, and then that is the type of stress that can cause health issues and problems. Test anxiety is something that is stressful for a lot of people. So, test anxiety can be acute or chronic. It can negatively impact a person's self esteem, their self efficacy, and their performance on the actual test. And the number one way to get rid of test anxiety is to be well prepared. So, if you're nervous about a test, then you have to just study and, almost overstudy so that that reduces your level of anxiety. And one way that will help you increase your desire to study for that test is to know your purpose. Like, what is my purpose of learning this? Okay, maybe sometimes your purpose for learning it is that I just want to get out of this class, I want to make a good grade. Or, sometimes it's much deeper. Like, this is a foundational thing that's going to lead me to becoming a doctor later on. So, there are 5 things to do before you start a test, sort of to avoid or reduce your level of test anxiety. You could roll your neck 5 times, left to right, and 5 times right to left. Roll your shoulders 5 times, front to back, then back to front. Take 2 deep, slow, full breaths in and out. So the same way I told you before, smell a flower, blow out a candle 2 times. Close your eyes and see yourself succeeding, being confident and comfortable. Like, imagine that you're really doing this. And then reciting a handful of positive affirmations and actually seeing themselves happening. So, whatever your positive self talk is, you can do this, you've got this, you're great, you're wonderful, you're going to ace this. Okay? Now, let's talk about sort of how your body reacts to stress. There's something called flight, or it should say flight or fight response. Okay, so the human body is built to respond to acute stress only. So remember, the acute stress is short lived. Your body can easily fight it away because it goes away quickly. But sometimes when your body is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, things can get into harm's way, and that's when your fight or fight response is activated. I'll fix that. Your body's flights to maintain homeostasis. Stress is considered the silent killer. And the reason it's called the silent killer is because oftentimes a person dies and they have a heart attack, they have a stroke, diabetes, cancer, anything else. But really, it was stress that contributed to their death because stress acts as a precursor. So it happened sort of before the illness occurred. So I always tell students never stress and definitely never have chronic stress because that's what lets disease and illness creep into your life. It can cause sleeping difficulties, and the reason it can cause illness is because stress suppresses your immune system, so it weakens your body's ability to fight off illnesses. And chronic stress accounts for about 85% of medical problems. 85%. There's a new form of stress that's recently been entered into the DSM, which is our psychological manual for diagnosing disorders, and it's called techno stress or technology stress. And that is because people are often bombarded with digital stimuli every day, every hour, every second and minute, really. And the need to feel constantly engaged in technology and can cause stress because you guys know what it's like. You can't even focus in your classes because you want to check your Instagram or you want to check Snapchat or you want to know what message someone sent you. That's techno stress. Like it's causing you not to be able to do what you need to do in your life because you're worried so much about it. And then on the other hand, there are people in our society who don't know how to use all of the new technology, and that is also stressful because, okay, I don't know how to do those things. And now, imagine, I'm sure there are some teachers right now who are dealing with going online, and even some students who aren't very comfortable with having a class online. And it's stressful because it's like, okay, I have to do this, this, and this online, and I don't really know how to do it. I'm not really comfortable with it. And so, technology stress is definitely real. Okay, so there's something called continuous partial attention, CPA problems. This is what occurs because as a result of technology stress. And this is when we are staying aware of several things simultaneously and we don't focus on any one thing. So, having too much technology at once can impact our ability to focus on one thing at a time. So, continuous partial attention means that you are never giving your full attention to anything. You're always giving partial attention. Okay, I'm watching this on my computer and taking my notes, or I'm reading this and listening to a lecture, or I'm playing this game and taking my notes. We've already talked about that you cannot cognitively multitask. So we know that your brain doesn't like that. Your brain is not comfortable with it. Your brain feels stressed by it. Continuous partial attention is the result of technology and technology stress, and it can make a person never really give their all to anything. There's also, believe it or not, a good form of stress. It's called eustress. And the key to managing your stress is to minimize the amount of distress you feel and maximize the amount of eustress you feel. So, eustress is the positive stress. It gives us positive stimulation. It gives us a sense of intrinsic satisfaction, and it fuels us to perform at our best. So this eustress happens when you get a new challenge and you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm ready to do this. So you might feel, it makes you feel driven. It makes you want to accomplish the task that you need to accomplish. And then when you finish it, you're like, oh, I'm so glad that's over. But you weren't distressed by the situation. You had the positive form of stress. And then in chapter 25, I started talking to you about the SBTA method. And that is a method for sort of managing your stress and managing yourself when you feel out of control. So it can help you manage. You can use it anytime to manage stress, to manage anger, to manage conflict, anything. So that's the S. Stop everything you're doing, become still, relax your muscles, just stop. That's the S on the SBTA method. And then the B is to breathe slowly and deeply. Smell the flower. Blow out the candle. And, blow until your whole diaphragm is empty. And then T is to think rational, positive, present tense, to visualize what you're thinking about. So think good thoughts. Go to your happy place. That's what I always tell my clients in psychology. Okay, where's your happy place? Okay, if your happy place is on the beach, okay, go ahead and imagine yourself in the water. Imagine yourself lying on the beach with the sand between your toes, or wherever your happy place is, just imagine yourself there so that you take yourself out of your present situation. And then A, come back to reality, and you act. You get back to work on whatever it was that you needed to accomplish. Okay, so the last thing that I need to talk to you guys about in chapter 27 is learned helplessness. It was a term that was coined by a man named Martin Seligman in the late 60s. Learned helplessness kind of came about because people felt really stressed. They felt out of control. They felt like they were unable to help themselves, that they couldn't escape or effectively cope with the stress they were feeling. And that's because these people had an external locus of control. They did not feel like they were in control of their lives. They felt like the things that happened to them control their life, and there was nothing they could do about it. So I always tell students, when they think about learned helplessness, think about domestic violence. Think about the man or woman who's in a bad relationship and gets out of that relationship and then finds another person who treats them bad too. And they continue to do that over and over again because they don't believe they have the ability to find somebody who can love and take care of them. They believe that they can only find people who are going to beat them and talk down to them and emotionally and physically abuse them. That's learned helplessness, having an external locus of control and feeling like things that happen in the world around you are in control of your life. And we know that the opposite of that is having an internal locus of control, to feel like you are in control. Like, this doesn't have to happen to me. I'm in control of who I let in my life and what I let happen to me. And I can control my level of stress. I can choose not to be stressed, just like I can choose not to be angry or to have conflict. Okay, so learned helplessness is the last term you need to know for chapter 27.